Welcome to Mooney Reads. My name is Beck, and today I'm going to be doing a bit of a book chat. I'm going to talk about some of the books that I read recently, some thoughts about 2022's reading, and what I might like to do in the coming year. So I'm going to start out talking just about the books, doing a bit of a wrap-up of the last couple of months. I actually didn't read, or I didn't finish anything in December. So that's easy enough. I did start a few things. I wanted to do the Queer Lit Readathon, and I started an audiobook, didn't finish it. Started reading an astrology book that I didn't think that I was going to finish reading, and here we are, I'm still reading it. But I did read a couple of things in November. I started out the month reading My Name's Yours, What's Alaska? And, I picked this up because I've been on a really big RuPaul's Drag Race kick. RuPaul is not a good person, but the show is fun and I love learning about all of the other queens. One of my coworkers had actually read this and said that it was good, so I read it and really enjoyed it. If you're not already interested in drag queens or Alaska, I'm not sure if you would like it. The reading is very much how she talks, which I really liked because I'm familiar with her. I thought her story was neat, and as much kind of like intense stuff that she talks about, it was a really easy read. I actually read it in one night. I don't know, I don't really have very much to say other than it was a good time. Don't know if it's for, people who don't already like her, but I really enjoyed seeing her experiences, and really seeing what the scene was like where she is, and kind of different stories on how people start drag that I think is maybe not very conventional, like the type of drag that she does and the type of drag that she started with isn't necessarily like pageant, or it's kind of more like queer and intentionally like dirty and like more like John Waters queer, if that makes sense. But yes, very neat stuff. Going in a violently different direction, I did read one kid's book in November, Harold Loves His Woolly Hat. Very cute. Did not expect the ending, but it did make me cry a little. Another book that I read, not actually sure when I read it, I think it was November. I read Moonology, Working with the Magic of the Lunar Cycles. I read through this, pretty sure it was in November, and it was really interesting. I definitely tabbed some places, took a couple of notes. I think that it's very thorough in talking about different things that you would need to know. It gives you kind of suggestions of things that you can do or focus on depending on what sign or house the moon is in and phase the moon is in. It didn't necessarily blow my mind. There were like a couple of things in here where I guess I had personal kind of discrepancies, but I think 3.5 stars, but I will be using it as a reference book, so I think it's a little bit hard for me to rate like some of like the astrology books and stuff like that, just because like I'm learning. So like, do I know if this book is actually good? I have no idea. That's not my area of expertise, but I had a pretty good time with it, and I'll be using it. Then we can move on to the next book, which is Cultish by Amanda Montel. And this book I really enjoyed. And I am disappointed that I haven't been able to put up an Instagram or book talk post about it, because it is published by HarperCollins, and that strike is still going on. I'm talking about it in the wrap-up because, from my understanding, the union is kind of okay with that, but I didn't want to put out anything in particular focusing on this. And then the final book that I read in 2022 is Moon of the Crusted Snow. I actually started reading this, I think, last October or November, and set it down just because I'd gotten in a reading slump, and I'm really glad that I picked it back up. I actually have a physical copy, not that I know where it is right now, but I listened to the audiobook, and I I listened to it in a day. It was really good. This is kind of a thriller, climate fiction, and it focuses on this Native American reservation in so-called Canada. Throughout the course of this book, they lose power and kind of realize that it's not just something that's only happening there, and things kind of start to get out of control. I really liked a lot about this book, especially the thematic elements, but I feel like I can't even talk about many of the thematic elements outside of like the climate fiction, obviously, without giving some kind of plot points away. I also kind of would like to reread it with a couple of different things in mind, because I think that there might be more going on with gender than I initially expected, especially considering some of the stuff that happens towards the end of the book. I think I might want to rethink some of the stuff that I thought about the beginning. So that was very good. So far as 2022 goes as a whole, it was a smaller reading year than my previous couple on BookTube have been. I read 83 books. My kind of best reading months were January and April, where I read 19 books. I think technically I read more pages in January. And my lowest reading months, other than December, where I read nothing, were August and July, where I read one book apiece in each of those months. And there are a few reasons for my reading slowing down. I literally moved across the country, and you can definitely see that reflected in my reading. A lot was happening, and I was getting settled in and everything. Another thing is that I can't really listen to audiobooks at work like I used to, just because I've moved to a different place, so I can't really do that. So far as what I thought about the books that I read, I think that I've had a really good reading year. 25 of the books that I read, I gave 5 stars. And if we're rounding, so anything that I gave 4.5 and higher, that was 37 books. So about a third, a little over a third, I think, is how that math works out, of what I read was like about 5 stars, which is really great. And I only had one book that was under 3 stars and 6 that were in the 3 or 3.25 type of range. And I think a big reason for that is that I read what I like. I know what I like. I do try to go outside of my comfort zone to a certain extent, but I'm not going to pick something up that is really popular and just doesn't sound like something that I'm not going to read. Like, I'm not going to read a Colleen Hoover book. I know I'll hate it. That's just kind of how it is. And honestly, even if I wanted to do that, I'm not sure that my brain would let me. I have a hard enough time finishing books that I want to read. Like, as much as I only read one book those couple of months, I read no books last month. I read during those months. I just didn't finish anything. I was bouncing between things. I was only reading bits here and there. And even stuff that I really, really like, even in previous years. I have plenty of books that I got or started reading in 2020, in 2019 that I know I'll like. I just never finished them. And that's something that I would like to address in the coming year. A focus on finishing things would be fantastic. But I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. The other thing that I wanted to talk about with my 2022 reading or rereads. I reread quite a few things. I did my Great Gatsby reread in preparation for the retelling that I looked into. I also reread all of Heartstopper, plus the Nick and Charlie novellas. I also reread Perks of Being a Wallflower, which was incredible. And then I both read and reread Summer Sons. So I did have kind of parts of this year where I was really enjoying rereading. And I would definitely have a lot of other books that I would like to revisit. And that's definitely something that I can talk about in another video. So that kind of brings us into 2023 reading goals, that sort of thing. I'm not going to have a lot of super hard goals. I would really like to chill out
Do you have to do this? Do you have to wipe your hands like that? Okay, cat. Is it necessary?
So far as 2023 is concerned, I do have several things that I would like to do. I do have some goals. I don't want it to be too much. I don't want it to be too intense because I need to be nice to myself. And the last half of last year was not very big on reading. And honestly, I don't really expect 2023 to be like 2020 or 2022 or 2021 was in terms of reading. Simply because a lot of this reading kind of hobby super kicked up because I was using it as a coping mechanism. And I am not in a place where I need to kind of read to escape or have something to focus on. And I do genuinely love my reading. I do genuinely love having little reading projects put together. I don't need to read instead of thinking. So I do think that it is, I might be less than 100 books this year again. I don't know. I would like to read at least 50. I think that that's manageable for me. I would like to read at least one book a month that was suggested. I did the 12 book like challenge, and I asked people on Instagram what books they think I should read, and I just went with the first 12 that were recommended to me. And some of them are well within my wheelhouse, and some of them are violently outside of it. So I'm pretty excited about that. I think that's a good way to kind of stretch my kind of reading bounds in a good way. I would also like to read at least one book a month that is from a dedicated topical TBR. I do have videos about those that I've put together, but they are, constantly moving. Those TBRs, I'm getting books. I've actually gotten rid of some of the books that I put on some of those videos. I think for the closest thing to complete, you'd probably look at my Goodreads. If you were interested, and I also have several topical TBRs that I need to do videos for still. But regardless, I want to be sure that I'm focusing kind of on the topics that I'm interested in and have curated little lists around. So ideally at least one book from one of the lists. Ideally more, but my goal is one. I want to carve out consistent time to read and really figure out where in my new schedule is best to read. Like I said, I would like to be able to dip into rereads a decent amount, just because there are some books that I've really wanted to reread and just haven't. I would also like to focus on finishing. It's just in my nature to have multiple books going at the same time. I'm not going to attempt to stop that. But I am going to try to not tell myself that I'm going to slow read through a lot of things. I do think that there are some things that genuinely need to be slow read through for me, but there are some things that it's a reading break. It's not a slow read. Tonks, is this necessary? So when I have large books like that, I want to really be diligent about finishing them rather than kind of really being excited about it and then putting it away. For instance, Let the Record Show. I really, really want to finish reading this year. That's kind of one big one that I'd really like to focus on. And I don't want to, read a chapter a month or something like that. I would like to kind of have that be the main book that I'm dedicated reading, even if that means that I'm not reading, 12 books a month, and I need to be okay with that. So those are kind of my thoughts for that. As far as the channel and other social media stuff is concerned, I would like to put out 2 videos per month at least. If I do more, that's fine. But if you've been here for a while, you've probably noticed I'll have periods of time where I have like a gazillion videos, and then a couple of months where I'll have like nothing, or I'll have like one video. And I think that trying to schedule at least 2 per month is manageable, and me like keeping momentum, and I think will be useful in letting me kind of spread out ideas, because sometimes it feels like if I have an idea, I need to do it immediately or it's never going to happen, which is where I end up like filming ones that I don't like and I don't put up, and a lot of other different things that my goal is just 2 videos per month. Some months may have more, but I do want to attempt to kind of pace myself in a reasonable way without taking away from when I'm excited to make videos. Hopefully that makes some sort of sense. So far as Instagram and book talk goes, I would like to try to do at least 3 posts a week on each of those. I think that's doable. That's about it for really big book goals. I do have, several others. Like, I have some books that I want to get to, quite a few books that I want to buddy read. So I think that'll be fun. But I think that's about all. In the comments, let me know what you've been reading and if you have any 2023 reading goals. And thank you all so much for watching. Bye.